What's up everybody, Discount Russian here, and today we're talking about anime.
Oh my god!
Dark Souls anime. So, a leak has recently come out about a potential Dark Souls anime being produced, and honestly it got me like, oh snap, that's actually pretty cool. It actually got me modestly excited. So who's making it? Oh, okay, so now I'm a bit skeptical. Quite skeptical. Keep in mind though, these are all leaks that are not of yet as of the making of this video been confirmed in any way, not officially. So with that out of the way, what direction could this anime take? What narrative point will it focus? Will it be faithful to the lore of the Souls series and its source material? Will both Souls and anime fans even watch it? Well, hopefully I can answer these questions for all of you in this video. So come right in, let's get into it. Well, firstly, where did the leaks come from originally? It seems the leak was first published by the website Giant Freaking Robot, which claims, end quote, "Our trusted and proven sources tell us the streamer is developing an anime series based on the acclaimed video game Dark Souls. This could mark a new era for Netflix, as the Dark Souls anime would be one of the company's first truly original anime series." The website also claims that this anime is likely to begin with the events that took place in the original game. Like I said before, these are just leaks with no official confirmation, but I'm not gonna lie, these leaks were somewhat confusing to me initially, because a few months back, rumors of a supposed Sekiro anime being in the works arose, and that made more sense to me back then. In comparison to the Souls games, Sekiro had a far more traditional narrative with a named character with goals and ambitions that were easy to understand, follow, and adapt for an anime format. But Dark Souls? By Netflix? A dark fantasy world with a bleak, depressing undertones, told by a narrative, quote unquote, that is vague, open to interpretation, whom the details of it are also told in the descriptions of a random doorknob you find in a chest? Yeah, not something from Netflix alley if you ask me. So, like it was quoted before, this anime is likely to begin with the events that take place in the original game. So from that we could assume where the narrative of the story could take place, and personally, I'm not a big fan of it, and here's why. Through what was quoted before, we could assume that the Chosen Undead could be the main character for this series, but picking the Chosen Undead as a POV character, or the main character in this case, may result in a few problems. The Chosen Undead was designed to have their origins, voice, and skills ambiguous, and the reason for that is because they're supposed to be us. They're supposed to be the key for our immersion in the game. We're supposed to roleplay as the Chosen Undead in this bleak, dying world. But I doubt that Netflix will follow that route, since a nameless, voiceless character will hardly appeal for a casual audience. And you bet your ass that Netflix will cater to these audiences. I mean, again, a character with no voice and a mysterious background could have worked before in an anime format, and it had. And the anime Dororo being a great example of that. That anime is great, and it worked quite well. But it's hard to envision someone like Netflix managing to pull that off, considering their track record of respecting the adapted source materials and its lore. And that brings me to the most important aspect for understanding the story of the Souls games. Its lore. Although the lore of the Souls games are mostly told through item descriptions and the occasional dialogue from a random NPC, which may or may not be trustworthy, it's expansive enough that you could spend hours on a video and still not learn everything from it. Since Dark Souls lack the traditional way of storytelling, the lore makes the backbone for the plot in the whole game. All of it is told in a way that is open to the player to interpret. This has not only given a lot of freedom for the players to understand the story, but also allowed the creation of a lore community and the rise of lore channels. Vadividia, for example, as mentioned before. Not to mention the fact that this method of world building created a great sense of mythicism and flair for the world of Dark Souls. In short, the lore of the games allowed the players to fill in the gaps of this unknown world story by themselves, giving more interaction between the player and the world building aspect of the game. But here's a million-dollar question. How do you adapt that for a series format? An animated series format at that. I mean, do you expose the viewer to a lengthy exposition? And if you actually do that, then I asked myself, who's the series supposed to be for? The hardcore fans? I mean, We already know most if not all of it. We watched the video already. Is it for the more casual audience? Will you bore them to death about lore that can be quite confusing and convoluting at times? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think Netflix will follow that kind of logic or that sort of direction. No, if this series sees the light of day, I do not particularly believe in the following story to be of the chosen undead to be the best call. Which brings me to my next point. Possible plots. Souls lore is so expansive and with no short amount of subplots to be explored and possibly adapted into an animated series format. So here are some of the ones that I thought could be great for an anime. First one, the rise of Gwyn, the First Lord. The First Lord of Cinder and the one to kindle the flames was Gwyn. His character influence can be felt throughout the whole Souls series, not only Dark Souls 1. Therefore, an origin story with a more detailed focus on his perspective about his rise and how he ushered the Age of Fire could be compelling to casuals and veteran fans alike. Second one, the Nameless King's Rebellion. The Nameless King is hailed as one of the hardest bosses in Souls history, and his lore and character are both interesting and open enough to interpretation to allow an adaptation to fill in the gaps of what we don't know about it. His relationship with his Stormdrake could also be a good plot point to be considered, since around the time that Gwyn's rise as Lord of Cinder, his eldest son and his heir apparent grew sympathetic to the dragon's cause. After bonding with the Stormdrake and forsaking his father's kingdom in favor of their mortal enemy, Gwyn himself therefore expunged his very name from the annals of history, giving rise to the legend of the Nameless King in lore. So again, he would be an interesting character to follow and adapt into an animated story. It would be compelling to both hardcore fans that know the struggle of fighting such a god. He was one of the hardest bosses after all. It would also be compelling to see the rising legend of a mysterious character for the more casual fans. Third and final one, and probably the best one of them all, the rise and fall of Artorias. Artorias is a legend, both in and out of the Souls game. His boss design is hailed as one of the best in the series history, and he is highly regarded as one of the Souls community's favorites. So the story of how the Souls-like equivalent to Guts from Berserk, rising to become one of Gwyn's strongest knights, along with his relationship with the Great Wolf Sif and his valiant attempt in holding back the Dark, would be very compelling to both old and new fans alike. To old fans, the story of Artorias, its origin story, would be bittersweet, for we could finally see from the perspective of the legend himself how he rose to challenge and continued to struggle, even if it wasn't fall for naught. For the new fans, they would witness the rise of one of the most beloved bosses of the Souls series and how his legend is forged through struggle and sacrifice. Probably one of the best choices I've presented here so far. But, there's an issue with all these that I have mentioned. All of these possible plots and their flair comes from their mythicism. The fact that we don't know all the details, which in turn allows us to build their legends ourselves. I mean, that's kind of the trick for all this, for the whole of the Souls lore, but again, this still applies to these particular plots. Therefore, making a series about a first-hand perspective about these stories could undermine the mythology behind them if handled poorly. And this is Netflix. But enough of my opinion on what direction could Netflix potentially take with this series. Let's see what the fans have to say in Twitter, and spoiler alert, they're not positive. How? How would they adapt something into a show with so little coherent story or dialogue behind it? I'm not cheating on the Souls games, I really like them in fact, but this makes no sense to me. Again, I completely agree. Initially, I heard rumors of a Sekiro anime being made, and it made more sense at the time. I mean, it had dialogue, it had a coherent story, it had a character with a coherent objective and goal behind him. It made more sense. Souls is a lot more encryptic. It's just like this guy says. It barely has a coherent story or dialogue behind it, and that's by design. The idea is for you to basically play the archaeologists in these games, and that helps with the immersion of it. How do you adapt that into an animated show? I'm also confused on why they would choose Dark Souls. I mean, it's the most popular of the two, obviously, but still, my point stands. This is probably why they wanted it. A brand with a fan base but no canon to be beholden to, or a legacy characters you have to honor. They can make it whatever they want it to be, character and story-wise. Are you sure? No legacy character? You sure about that? I mean, do you really believe that the Souls community would be happy if they get Sigmire wrong? Or, you know, Solaire? Patches, I mean, don't even dare trying to get another voice actor outside of the original one. If they change the voice actor, dude, people are gonna riot. So yeah, the no legacy character type of thing, yeah, don't be so sure about that. Oh boy, another franchise to Netflix to ruin in their woke agenda. Yes, that's a concern people have. They're going to make Berserk. We already have that. Yeah, sure, we do. I mean, bring back the frying pan simulator. Please, God, don't be like Berserk. Yeah, that's one of the worries that I have because both Berserk and Dark Souls have very similar aesthetics. I mean, obviously, Dark Souls was brutally inspired by Berserk. It's nearly copy-paste at some points. So the undertones and themes are very similar. It's very bleak, a very dark sort of story. I mean, it is dark fantasy, so... And considering Berserk's track record and the studio's inability to actually adapt that faithfully into an animated format brings me worry that Dark Souls will also suffer from that. And well, if you can continue to see most of them are negative, no, please no, I don't think it'll work. God, they're going to ruin this masterpiece. I can't stomach seeing another rainbow flag ruin a great franchise. No more woke and diversity crap ruin a great masterpiece. Girl boss chosen undead brings the feminist revolution on that evil patriarch Gwyn. Dark woke is gonna be like The Witcher. We're fucked. Yes, here goes again. And well, Netflix track record of respecting the source material. It started with Castlevania. Now the age of okay, I cannot read the rest of this. So yeah. But anyway, what do you guys think? Do you guys think this could work? I mean, if given the right treatment, it could be really good. I mean, like I said, there are many subplots that they could follow that wouldn't, you know, completely interfere with the game's narrative, and it would be appeasing to both casuals and hardcore fans alike. But again, if the leaks are true, it's Netflix that's doing it, and Netflix has not a good track record. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully, this brought you some insight of what could be or could not be for a Dark Souls anime. Leave a like if you enjoyed, consider subscribing, and I'll see you all later. Peace.